Welcome in, everyone, to Picks and Parlays Bettors Edge. This is Week 14. I'm Hannah Mears. That's Craig Trapp. That's Andrew Fillipponi. Guys, let's start off here. Rams at Ravens. The Baltimore Ravens have looked fantastic so far this season, and so they're coming into this one a 7.5-point favorite. But the Rams have won 3 in a row after their bye week. Craig, are you confident that they can hit this spot here against the Ravens in Baltimore?
Confidence, I guess, is in the eye of the beholder, they say, but I do. I think it's a tough spot for the Ravens. If you look now that the division that we thought the AFC North was going to be like really tight, not so tight. So, you kind of have that buffer built in if you're Baltimore, and maybe they take this game a little easy. That's not the case for the Rams. They need to win and continue to win if they're going to sneak into the playoffs. And I think there's not a whole lot of teams in the NFC would like to play a hot Rams team that has a veteran quarterback, Cooper Kupp, and possibly one of the top 3 defensive players in the game. So give me the underdogs here. I do think they have a shot to keep this close and maybe even pull off an outright upset here.
I actually had the Rams at plus 7.5 as well, and the reason is they're in rhythm. The receivers finally looked like they're clicking with Matt Stafford. He's thrown 8 touchdown passes in the last 3 games, so I think they're on a roll right now. They figured something out. They have a good coach. I think he knows at this point what it takes to win football games, and the Baltimore Ravens have been in some close ones here and there, which is why I also like when you look at this. And I've looked at over and over at some of these numbers, and I was saying I know that Rams plus 7.5 to some people could be scary because of how good the Ravens can be, but I also like the Rams team total over 16.5 in this one, and for those reasons of Stafford throwing 8 touchdown passes in the last 3 games, I find it hard to believe they can't get 2 touchdowns and a field goal in this matchup. So look for that as well if you want to stay away from the side. Pony, there's a lot going on and a lot to break down in this one, but are you confident or are you on our side?
The problem is if I pick the Ravens are going to cover, right? Because
that's how I felt.
That's like this clean sweep thing when all of us agree on a game. That's usually a bad omen for the team that we're all taking. But my pick is the Rams. The Ravens, for example, at home this year, they've lost to Cleveland. They've lost to the Colts. Now, those games were a little bit different. The Colts game was a field goal fest. The Browns game, they had a big lead, and they blew it. My point is they have lost at home and shown that they are vulnerable. Especially coming off a bye. Is there going to be a rust factor for them? We'll wait and see. Things have broken right for them in the conference standing, so there is urgency for the Ravens to win this game and still compete for the number 1 seed. But I watched the Rams shut down another mobile quarterback in Kyler Murray 2 weeks ago. I think that right now, with a great offensive coach, they have everything you want. Their offensive line is stabilized. Kyren Williams is back healthy, running the ball well. Their wide receivers, Kupp and Nakua. With the hook, 7.5, I think they're trying to tempt us to bet the Rams, and I'm falling for it.
Yeah, me too.
I'm going to take LA plus 7.5.
Yeah, I fell for it too. So we'll see. If we're wrong, we're all going down to that one. The Jaguars and the Browns. So another AFC North team here with Cleveland. They're now the favorite by 3 points. And earlier when I looked before the Trevor Lawrence news came out, they were only a favorite by 1.5. I was like, oh, Browns money line. This looks like a good one. But wait to see about Trevor Lawrence. Now we know he's definitely not going to be the starter in this one. So how do you feel about Cleveland in this spot, Pony?
I feel pretty good about him. We saw Jake Browning was able to go downfield on the Jacksonville defense. That's not a problem for Flacco. I mean, he might throw an interception, but he likes airing the ball out, and he should get good enough pass protection from that pretty solid Browns offensive line. I just come back to the Browns defense is one of the absolute best in the NFL. I still believe that. It's going to be C.J. Beathard making his first start. We've seen Brock Purdy go on the road to Cleveland and not play well against that defense. This is one of the lowest point totals of the last 15 years. It's 30.5, guys. I don't think Jacksonville can score without Trevor Lawrence on that defense. I'm going to lay the 3 points.
I would be in the same boat as you with that 3 points. If the money line, I haven't rechecked what that value's at. If there's value there, take the Browns money line. That would be my best bet in this one, just because with the situation of backup quarterbacks, could it get ugly at some point? I don't want to rely on the consistency of that, but to your point about the Browns defense, that's where I would lay my trust with. When Beathard was in the game, he was sacked twice. So to say that Cleveland can't get after him is a stretch. I think they will. So I would say Browns money line in this one. Are you as confident in Cleveland over there, Mr. Bengals fan?
No. This Cleveland offense is it's a mess. I mean, you're on your, 4th quarterback of the season. If Flacco was good enough to be a starting quarterback in the league, he would at least be a backup somewhere. He wasn't for a reason. He's an aging quarterback that he was always prone to throw some interceptions. And when you see a total of 30.5, that makes me think, I'm thinking this is a ugly game. Like, 10-9 type game where, points seem to be at a premium. And I think this Jacksonville defense is going to play a lot better this week. They were embarrassed last week. I mean, a backup quarterback, Jake Browning, did everything. And, I mean, the Bengals had 2 really dumb plays where they tried to throw it with receivers.
Right.
If they don't have those 2 plays,
they win convincingly.
It would have been ugly. So, to me, I think this is a bounce-back spot for Jacksonville's defense. They might lose in cover, so I'm going to take the points with the underdog, I think, in a very low-scoring game.
See, you like Jacksonville's defense in a low-scoring game. We like Cleveland's defense. So I think this one's, battle of defense.
Maybe we should just play the under.
Right, even though it's super low. But that's one of those games, though, when I looked at it and I was like, maybe I'm just going to stay away completely from this one. But if I have to make a pick, here's where it is. Another interesting game, Seahawks and Niners. The Niners have been on a tear right now. Earlier this season, they did beat the Seahawks, and then they annihilate the Eagles last week. I mean, this looks like the best team in football right now, and they're a 10.5-point favorite at home. Do you like them in that spot, though, Craig?
I mean, this is a huge number against a division foe that knows you very well, is built to stop you, and a lookover spot, after you go on the road and you have that amazing win. Now, do I think Seattle can win? No. But remember, Seattle, I think they punted once against the Cowboys.
There were no punts at all in that game.
So no punts. They did not, back down against that great Dallas offense. And I think this is the week you take Seattle plus the points. I think this could be one of those, high-scoring games where San Francisco maybe looks over them early. So I'm going to take the underdog getting 10.5. I mean, that is a lot of points in the NFL. Usually you're getting 10.5, you're facing a really bad team. I don't think Seattle's a bad team. I think they're, upper to the middle part of the NFC.
Yeah, when we look at those double-digit numbers, we've seen it with Dallas a lot. So, Pony, I need your thoughts here on this one because you've been on both sides of it at times.
Well, usually I skew towards the underdog in these games, and I've said since we started doing the show together, guys, Seattle's one of those teams for me that I think it's much easier to make the case for them when they are an underdog. Because they've shown that they can score points. Usually when you get a team that's such a big underdog, the concern is that you're talking about a team that might score 17 and under. And I just think that they showed against Dallas, one of the better defenses in the league, that they can score 20-plus points in a game like this. I love Craig's point about the comfort factor of knowing this is what San Francisco does. We've already seen it this year. We can get back in the lab and prepare to stop it. I don't know how much success they'll have with that, but I do know that Geno Smith is healthier for this game than he was the first time they played, and he looked like the Geno Smith of last year against the Cowboys. DK Metcalf was a monster. I give Seattle I'm not going to bet a money line, but I think they're going to be very, very competitive in this game, Hannah. I think it's really close.
Do you know who also has been a monster? Deebo Samuel, and that's where I looked for these bets in this game. I love props with the Niners right now because they have so many dominant receivers, and Christian McCaffrey looks awesome, and sometimes you can't get these at good values because of how good they are, but because Deebo Samuel was injured for a little bit, I think you're getting his numbers at better value right now. 51.5 receiving yards. I'm taking that over. He was targeted 9 times against Seattle a few weeks ago and recorded 79 yards in that game. The other 2 games in the last 3, he's gone over this total, and he only needed 4 targets to do that. So the way he's been, and if Purdy is in situations, to your points about it's being close, it's a close game, who am I going to go to? I think he goes to Deebo Samuel in a lot of those situations. So I would take Deebo Samuel's over 51.5 receiving yards as my best bet in that game and my best bet of the week as well. When you're looking at Bills and Chiefs, the Chiefs are a 2.5-point favorite, and both of these teams really need this game. Kansas City, though, their division's a bit weaker, so I guess the case for them isn't as much desperate as it is for the Buffalo Bills. So, Craig, when you look at this game in particular, do you think the Chiefs can get this one done, or is this a spot where Buffalo comes in and they take over Arrowhead?
This was one of those games, and you looked at it and you're like, before the season, you're like, this is the possible game of the year.
Yes.
The shine's off a little bit because even though the Chiefs' defense has been really good, the offense has kind of struggled a little bit. And then the Bills, of course, you've fired your offensive coordinator now. You've let a couple games get away that you probably should have, and now they're both kind of needing this win coming in. I mean, the Chiefs, they would like it to go through Arrowhead, and when we see how tough they are at home.
It's always gone through Arrowhead for them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, now you face a Bills team that, they're just going to struggle to get into the playoffs at this point. But I still think the Chiefs are the play here. The Chiefs, they can rely on one thing. And I don't think Buffalo can rely on anything at this point. I don't love their offense. I don't love their defense. But you can rely on that Kansas City defense. Even when they've lost, the defense has kept them in the game, given them a chance. I think this is the week that Patrick Mahomes spreads the ball around like he always does and finds a couple big plays in the red zone that he's kind of fell short on. I'm going to take the Chiefs. I just can't imagine. I'm guessing the advanced line on this was probably over a field goal. So I think we're getting value here because they lost last week.
So you like the Chiefs at 2.5?
Yeah.
I like the Chiefs on the money line, just straight up in this one. I don't want to risk anything being a 1-point game between these two teams, which I think can happen, especially with everything like we were talking about. The Chiefs feel like they need this one. The Bills feel like they need this one. But I think the Chiefs at home squeeze this one out. They've had some subpar performances they need to bounce back from. I think this could be even a spot where Travis Kelce has a big game. We see that connection happening. And somewhere along the lines, every single season when we see the Chiefs struggling, they figure it out eventually and they're ready for playoffs. So I also don't like the fact the Bills have not been playing clean games. Josh Allen has the most interceptions in the league. And if you turn it over too much against the Chiefs, one of those times Patrick Mahomes is going to make you pay for it. So that's why I like the Chiefs here in this spot. Pony, what's going on in your brain?
I've got a lot to say about this game. First of all, I think with the line, it shows you that if there was a selection committee in the NFL, they'd put the Bills in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. Right? You're telling me with this line, the odds makers are that on a neutral field, they think the Bills are better than the Chiefs. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Think about that for a second. 6-6 out of the playoffs, and they think Buffalo is better than Kansas City straight up. So that's the first thing I think about with this game. The other thing I think about big picture with Buffalo is they really, if you want to get risky and ballsy, a future bet on them to win the AFC, in my opinion, is not bad right now. Because, they've got a lot of work to do to make the playoffs at 6-6, but look at the teams that are ahead of them in the standings with the Steelers' quarterback problems and offense issues. You mentioned Flacco. How long can the Colts keep it going with Minshew as their quarterback?
Quarterbacks all over the AFC right now.
Jonathan Taylor out.
Trevor
could the
Lawrence
Jaguars
now?
come back down to earth? So I think they are an interesting team to me, and it starts with this game. I think they're going to go there and straight up win. I like the Bills here, coming off a bye. To me, if they were not in such a bad spot, I think they would have garnered a lot of I think they would have gotten a lot of compliments and love for what they did in Philadelphia. They played a very good game there.
Should have won that.
They should have won the game. Mm-hmm. There were a couple of self-inflicted wounds. We get that a lot with them. But I thought Josh Allen played one of his very best games of the year. And if that Josh Allen goes into Arrowhead this week, I think they're going to win.
Speaking of the Eagles, I feel like a lot of teams play their best game against the Eagles, right? And it's because they're coming in with nothing to lose, it feels like.
Also have the worst defense in the league. Right, one of the worst defense, the Eagles. So that helps.
The Eagles are heading into Dallas, though, who has one of the best defenses in the league. The battle of the NFC East leaders right now. This is very interesting. The Eagles could be dethroned here very soon. They just got dominated by the Niners, and the Cowboys are looking for their 5th straight win and to stay undefeated at home this season as a 3.5-point favorite. Pony, will they do it?
I won't bet on them in these situations until they prove me wrong. And this could be, Craig said it best about Philadelphia does have some weaknesses on the defensive side of the ball. And I think Hurts, when you see him, he does not look 100% healthy. He's still gimpy out there, and they got slaughtered last week by San Francisco. However, the Cowboys have one win over a winning team. That was Seattle, and that was not an easy win where they could not get a stop the entire game. And if they weren't perfect on offense, they would have lost that game at home. Everybody else who they've played with a winning record, including Philly earlier in the year, they lost. So you're giving me how many points again, Hannah?
3.5.
I'm getting the extra half point. Mm-hmm. Until I see the Cowboys beat a team of that caliber at full strength, I can't beat them. I can't bet them, so I'm taking the Eagles plus 3.5.
I had a hard time with that number, too, just because I had a lot of the similar feelings that you did towards both of these teams when you were really breaking it down. But one thing I can be sure of is that the Cowboys will throw the ball. We've talked about the struggles with the Eagles defense. I'm going to say Prescott over 279.5 passing yards. I know that seems like a big number, but he's done this in 4 of the last games.
Yep.
He's passing for over 300 yards. He had nearly 380 yards against the Eagles the first time that they played. And the Eagles' last 2 quarterbacks that they played each threw for over 300 yards as well. So they're giving up a lot of air yards right now. And Dak Prescott is a quarterback who can do it. Look at him when he passes to CeeDee Lamb. Like right there, you're getting probably half of this throughout a game. So that would be my best bet in this one, Craig.
I hate Mike McCarthy. I really do. But I will say, this offense is clicking. They did not punt last week. Seattle's defense, I think, is better than, especially the pass defense, is better than Philly. Philly, I mean, the first time they beat Dallas, they stopped them twice at the goal line.
Yep,
and
true.
on a 2-point conversion that they, like, I thought he actually was in, and I actually was on Philly. So, to me, I think this is a get-right game for Dallas's defense. They were exposed a little bit last week. I think they get right this week. I don't know what's wrong with Jalen Hurts because he acts and says like he's good, but when you see him run, it's just not the same guy we've seen in years past. And his not just like ability to run, but his he just willingness to run. I think this means a lot more to Dallas. I would buy the half a point. I hate playing 3.5s if I'm laying the points, and I'm going to take Dallas -3, even though I hate Mike McCarthy. I just think this is important because there's 3 teams that I don't know how 2 of these are in the NFC Championship. These 2 teams and the 49ers. So, home field's going to matter.
And someone wants to buy.
Right.
The loser of this game is going to have to play a road playoff game, probably at the NFC South winner in the wild card weekend.
So it could be, and then so you're going to have to win all road games. I mean, which we've seen that happen in the NFL, especially in NFC. It's a little weaker, but make it easier for your Dallas. Win this game, and then hope maybe that Philly loses again.
Well, it's starting to look like the stronger division at the moment in terms of quarterbacks, because as long as you're starting quarterbacks there, you might feel a little bit better about yourself in the playoffs. But when it comes to best bets, maybe I should just give my Thursday night football plays because I'm 68% there so far this season. Those have been just where I feel good at. Pony's been crushing it Monday Night Football. Craig's Sunday bets have been hitting. We've got you covered here. But I feel good about the props that I've made throughout this show as well. Those would be where a lot of them are at. So, Pony, when it comes to best bets, though, where are you headed?
Yeah, I think the Lions, there might be this false sense of security among their fans that because they got out to a big lead against New Orleans, that all is right with them. They hung on to win that game in part because I think the New Orleans quarterback injury, Jameis had to go in, and we know how things are with him. He giveth, taketh, etc. They're going to Chicago. The Bears should have beaten them a few weeks ago in Detroit. Yep. Chicago is a small home underdog. They just beat another division opponent on the road a couple of Monday nights ago against Minnesota. I honestly think if you just strip down the teams of their records, and we didn't know what Detroit's record was and Chicago's record, I honestly think Chicago would be favored in the game. I think this has to do with what their body of work is to this point in the season. At Soldier Field, I can't go against Chicago here. So I'm going to take them team. +3.
You can't go against your team. What are you talking about, Craig?
I'm going to the Chiefs game as my best bet. I like the Chiefs -2.5. I think I'd get on this early because I think this line will go back to 3 or end at 3, maybe even 3.5. I just think Chiefs, they've lost a few. They have not really looked good. I think they put a lot into this game. My best bets have been 19-4 the last 5 weeks.
That's really good.
So we were 3-1. The only loss last week, Mike McCarthy.
Yeah. There's why you're bitter with the Cowboys.
Yeah. So still 3-1 on my best bets of the week. So I will have a Thursday night best bet. I'll have 2 on Sunday, which this is one of them, and 1 on Monday. So you can get that over at the app every week.
Week 14 of the NFL is shaping up to be an exciting one. We'll see which backup quarterback will be long-term here or look like they could carry their team longer-term into the playoff picture. This is Picks and Parlays Bettors Edge Week 14. For more, head over to that Picks and Parlays app.